Hello humans, it's just Martine, and in today's video I'm going to be reading the Thrawn trilogy. This is my friend Andrew, and Andrew has been recommending me the Thrawn trilogy for years now. And so he finally lent me his set of the trilogy, and I'm going to give them a read over the next few weeks. This is a Star Wars series. I'm told that the main character, Thrawn, is an interesting dude. I love an interesting, smart character. I like Star Wars well enough, so we're going to give it a try. I will say, as much as I enjoy Star Wars, I have a terrible memory for Star Wars lore, so if I don't get a reference in this series, it's because I've forgotten it. We're gonna try our best. I'm now halfway through the first Thrawn book, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not loving the writing style, but I am enjoying the characters. I think they're really interesting. So more thoughts to come later. Hello, I am here to give you a review for the first Thrawn book, which I am giving 4 stars. Overall, I really liked it. I think there were just a couple things that I didn't love about this book. Basically, the whole point of this book is that we're meeting this character, Thrawn, and he's this great tactician, and they find him. He's like in exile on this planet. The Empire finds him, they take him in, and he becomes part of the Navy. And then during this whole book, we're seeing him move up the ranks and what it takes for him to move up the ranks, because as we know him in the other parts of the Star Wars universe, he's a Grand Admiral. So we want to see him get there. So we're doing that in this book. And we're also following 2 other people. One is Eli Vanto, who is this cadet at the time that they find Thrawn exiled, and he is the only one who knows the language that they think they'll need to speak with Thrawn. So he acts as a translator, and then he kind of gets lumped with Thrawn for the rest of his career. And so we see the push and pull there. And then we're also following this, I think she's a human, Arinda Price, and she is like the daughter of these people who have this mining company that gets taken from them, and so she's basically out to get revenge and climb the political ladder in the Empire to try and get power and get back what she thinks is her family's. I think the best composed timeline that we're following in this one is Arinda's perspective. I feel like Eli and Thrawn's perspectives were a little all over the place just because it was more piecemeal. We saw it step by step by step. They did this, and so then he became commander. He did this, and so he became commodore. He did this, and so he became an admiral, etc., etc. And it was interesting to see those things that he did because they involved like great tactical thinking, and that is interesting. But as for the narrative flow, it interrupted it. We're also at the beginning of each like chapter getting this thing in italics that's actually like thoughts from Thrawn, and what we don't know is that it's from his journal. And you know how they could have fixed that by like writing from the journal of Thrawn or whatever under it every time, but they didn't. They just dropped a couple paragraphs and ran away with it. And usually those paragraphs fit the theme of the chapter, but like not always as well as they should have. So that was also confusing. I love the characters in this. I really like reading smart and ambitious and cunning characters. It's a Slytherin in me. And so I really liked like Arinda, and I find Thrawn interesting. I'm not fully sold on him yet, but I found him interesting. I loved Arinda though. I can't wait to see what she does, or I guess she might not do anything in the next book. I don't know, but I loved her. So I think it's a great setup for the rest of the trilogy. I just felt like we were only reading this one to 1, know who Thrawn is, and 2, see him become a Grand Admiral. It didn't have absolutely everything I wanted, but it was still a really fun, really easy read actually. I expected to be more confused than I was. So I'm grateful for that. 1 book, done. Okay, so I'm about halfway through Thrawn Alliances now, and I wanted to give you a little checkup. First of all, it's been months since I read book 1, and I don't remember a thing. Where we start in this book, I genuinely forget what we ended with last time. In this one, we're following Darth Vader and Thrawn as they work together on something, and we're also getting flashbacks to Anakin and Thrawn working together, so it's like a dual timeline thing. It's pretty interesting. It's a pretty quick read, I would say, but I don't have many solid thoughts on it so far. But I am officially halfway through now, so hoping to finish this in the next few days. Hello, I have finally finished book 2, and I'm giving it 3.5 stars, so a little less than the first book, but it was still pretty good, I would say. A quick read in general. I can't say really what I got from this book. Like, it's a fun time, I guess, and it is interesting to see the differences and the similarities in the interactions between Thrawn and the various people. I think there might be a way in which this fits into the larger story that the trilogy is trying to tell, but I can't be for sure about that because I don't remember the ending of the first book, really. I mean, I guess at the ending of the first book, they do tease the fact that this one will involve Darth Vader, but other than that, I don't know. And so I'm like, where's the third book going to continue into? And I'll probably have forgotten everything about this book by the time I read that one, which is why I'm bad at reading books in series. Yeah, overall, I think this is a fine second book. Like, it didn't necessarily suffer from second book syndrome in the way that a lot of trilogy second books do, but it still wasn't as interesting to me as the first book, if that makes sense. Because I think when you read the first book in a series, like, that's your first introduction usually to the characters and the world that you're in. Even when it's a familiar franchise like this, they're putting you in the context of a specific story with specific characters. You're gaining your footing in the world. And I think that's a lot more interesting than already having your footing, to be honest with you. Like, having your footing is great and it's easier in some ways, but I do think it's less engaging. And so second books usually have to pull out the big guns if they're going to be on par with or better than the first book. And I'm not sure that this did that for me. Yeah, book 2 down, 1 book to go. Hello, I have finished reading Thrawn Treason, and I'm giving this one 4 stars. I actually think this was my favorite of the trilogy. I didn't check in halfway through because I read this book in 2 days, and it was actually really fun to read it on those 2 days because one was on May 4th, so may the 4th be with you, and then I finished it on the 5th, so there was nothing particularly special about the 5th, but I thought it was fun that I was reading it on Star Wars Day. I just feel like this one had a much more cohesive narrative than the first book, definitely, and then I felt like I understood the point of the narrative more than the second book, personally. So in this one, we're following Thrawn, and he is tasked with figuring out this thing that has been plaguing the Empire for years and years and years in a single week. And so we get to follow him as he tries to figure all of it out. I feel like this one really showcased his mind and his tactical planning. The other ones would have like short bursts of it, but this was like continual genius mode activated, which I really appreciated because when Andrew pitched me this series, like, that's what he promised me. So I felt like this one delivered on that more so than others. That being said, because this one was tactical brilliance on steroids, that meant that there was a lot of need for tactical brilliance, which meant that there was a lot of fighting and action sequences, which are not my favorite thing to read in books. And particularly, it was a lot of like ships fighting each other. And that was kind of hard to pay attention to at points, which is why this is getting a 4 instead of something higher. But overall, yeah, I think this was a good end to the trilogy, although I'm not like sure that it felt like an ending to the trilogy at all. And I'm not sure that these 3 books felt like a trilogy, because my overall thoughts are like, that the 3 didn't feel cohesive at all. They were each very different, and I didn't feel like we were working towards a specific end goal in the trilogy. And like, it's okay for there to be an end goal larger than a single trilogy, but there needs to be some end goal of the trilogy. And so each individual book had an end goal, but then they didn't really connect aside from being about Thrawn and being in chronological order of his life. So even though I found Thrawn to be a character with a lot of potential, I'm not sure that we got to see that potential used to its fullest because the narrative structure of the trilogy was not conducive to telling a really great story about Thrawn. But that said, I'm really glad Andrew gave me this recommendation. Overall, it was a pretty fun series. I had a good time. I would say if I had to give the trilogy a rating as a whole, it would be a 3.5, which is not bad. That's a pretty good rating. So that's my review of the Thrawn trilogy. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Are you a big Star Wars fan? If so, who's your favorite character? If not, you must love me a lot. So drop me some hearts in the comments down below and subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!